Welcome back, Queen, to another episode of Creatress of Freedom. How are you today? Oh my gosh, I'm so happy that you're here. If you are new, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am Annie and I am your host of the former According to Annie podcast that is now being rebranded into the Creatress of Freedom. If you are an OG, welcome back. It's so awesome to have you here. So thank you for taking some time out of your day to tune in to today's episode. And today's episode was actually inspired by a private call that I recently had with one of my coaching clients. And she's actually been in my world for quite a while, like over 3 years now. She's gone through multiple containers that I've had, and she is currently in private coaching with me right now. And it's been such a beautiful journey. There's something about private mentorship. It really allows you to go deep, and it really allows you to really refine and get to the nitty gritties of what's going on in their personal life, but then also that reflects into their business as well, right? And so this really enables us to quantum shift rapidly when you are in private coaching. And so I take on a very limited number of clients because private mentorship is very hands-on, and there's a lot of we're practically talking every day. We're pretty much besties. And so for that reason, I do limit the amount of clients that I do take on when it comes to private mentorship, just because of the energy. And I like to really respect the space that is created. And I like to be able to show up for the client when they need it. So usually we have calls, and then we also have in-between support, which is usually via the platform of Slack. And it really is super beautiful. And the women that do come into private mentorship usually stay around for a very long time because, the relationship that's built is really beautiful, and it's very nurtured, and, you learn a lot about each other, and, we share personal aspects of our lives with each other. It's a really beautiful space, and I truly value the one-on-one containers that I have with particular women. And so there is sometimes there's spaces open. So the application to come into one-on-one is always there for you to apply. So if you head to the show notes, there will be a application link that you can apply. And if there is a space, then we will reach out to you and let you know that there's a space. And even if there's not a space, we will let you know that you would be first on the list to be able to come into private mentorship if that's something that you're feeling the call to work with me on a deeper level with. But this particular conversation that I want to share was just some reflections that we were having on our call recently. And she was sharing with me how she had started to really pick up this pattern and this habit that kind of kept showing up. And a lot of it was around the momentum. And she was like, I was finding at the end of every week when she would do her little check-in with me, she's like, for this week, like I really just want to build the momentum. I feel like, I got my period, or, I just feel like I wasn't as productive as what I could have been this week. And, I set the goal of all the things that I wanted to achieve to finally get to the end of the week, and I didn't really tick anything off my list. And, things changed, and children, situations arose with the children and hubby and team and, all of the stuff, like all of these hats that we are juggling all of the time. And so I started to notice this pattern that kept showing up for her with, at the end of the week, there was this beating herself up of, I'm not doing enough. I didn't set my goals, and I didn't achieve them. And so there's this constant battle of beating herself up, of not doing what she said she was putting her goals or setting her intentions for the start of the week. Anyway, as we were chatting it out in Slack, I said to her, what if we started to shift what your definition of momentum is? Because what I could start to hear from her was that her definition of momentum was all about the doing, right? Her definition of momentum, of keeping the momentum going, was like doing the marketing, doing the team meetings, doing the the numbers, tracking the finances, then also working out the budget, and then also doing the stuff at home of the washing and the dinners and the shopping, and all of that stuff was like, that was what she was associating momentum with, was the doing. And she felt like her momentum, air quotations, stopped when she wasn't doing something. And I said to her, I think that this is a really beautiful reflection for you to tune into, because I think we get to rewrite what your definition of momentum is. Because the truth is that the doing only happens because of the being, right? When we allow ourselves to just be, when we are on our period and we are literally like, that's like a death and rebirth in itself, right? When we are on our cycle. And if we just allowed ourselves to grieve that process of what's happening with our body, if we are just feeling really tired and we just need to have a sleep, like, what if we just allowed ourselves to just be and accepted that that's part of the momentum, right? It's like the yin and the yang. You can't have one without the other. It's like the feminine and the masculine. You can't have one without the other. And so the momentum is also the doing and the being. So what if we just allowed ourselves to shift from this like constant feeling like we're not good enough if we're not doing, air quotation marks, things all of the time? And so we had this deep conversation around like what that would look like to shift that definition. And then as we were deepening this conversation as well, we also discovered that there was a part of her that was, being really, really great with her spiritual practices, her journaling, her meditation, reducing her screen time. And then she'd do amazing. And then all of a sudden, these habits would start to kick back in of things that weren't serving her highest good. So she'd stop meditating, she'd stop journaling, she'd stop doing all the things that really does help her stay in that higher frequency of vibration. And so we were also chatting about this as well. And she's like, I don't know why I get to that. Like, I was journaling about this and I was like, I don't know why this keeps happening. This also seems to be a pattern that I keep repeating where, everything goes really well. And then all of a sudden, I stop doing all of the things that make me feel so good. Maybe you can relate to this, right? Maybe you have a gym routine that makes you feel amazing and you love it. And then all of a sudden you stop doing it, right? Or maybe you start to eat really healthy and you feel amazing. And then all of a sudden you stop doing it and you start eating shit again, right? Maybe you start having a really great nighttime routine. And then all of a sudden now you're back watching TV until midnight or binging Netflix, right? And so she was sharing this with me. She's like, this is another pattern that I'm seeing. And it's like frustrating, man. I don't understand. And I actually said to her, have you listened to my podcast episode? So a previous episode that I recorded, and the title of it is What I Found in Corfu. So if you've not yet gone and listened to that, I highly recommend that you go back through the podcast list and you find that episode and you have a listen, because there were some really big breakthroughs that happened for me as well, walking this path with you. And I was sharing this with her, and she actually hadn't listened to this episode, so she was going to go back and have a listen. But I want to share with you just a few of the breakthroughs that I had when I was in Corfu. And this is what happens for a lot of us, and I see this in all the spaces that I coach in as well. So when I went to Corfu, I really did not feel the call to go out and explore and do adventures. I really just wanted to just be in the hotel, and I wanted to just rest, and I wanted to eat, and I just wanted to just sleep and just like really allow my body to rest and recharge. But what I found myself doing was opening my phone up, scrolling through the tours, trying to see what tours I wanted to do. And I'd get to like the tours and I'd like go to like book it, and I was like, I can't really be bothered doing it, right? And then I would beat myself up and I'm like, what's wrong with me? And then I had this whole narrative that was running where I was like, you didn't come all this way, Annie, to a new island to just sleep and to just rest and to just eat. Like, that makes no sense. You could have done that at home, right? And so I started to really play in this field of observing, really observing what was happening, really observing the patterns that were playing out here. And I thought, what is going on? Why am I wanting to fill my days with so much chaos, right? when really my body was telling me exactly what I needed, but I was resisting it. And so I started to sit with it. And what I discovered was like life changing. And now I am able, now that I've got the awareness around this, I'm able to catch this a lot quicker, not only for myself, but also for my clients as well. I'm able to catch it so much faster for them too. And so what I noticed was that all of a sudden, I didn't have any chaos in my life, right? Like I've built a successful business. I have a great life where I don't have to answer to anyone. I'm single now. I can just come and go as I please. I can do what I like. And there's no chaos. And as much as we crave for our lives to get to that stage, it is somewhat unfamiliar, right? It's an unfamiliar state of being. And even though we crave it desperately, because it's unfamiliar to the nervous system, the ego wants to create chaos, right? Which is why I was constantly looking for tours. I was constantly like, okay, well, no, I should go and do this. Or like, no, that's enough resting for today. That's enough reading of your book. Go and do something, right? And it was like my body was so used to the chaos that when I was in the calm, my nervous system didn't know how to cope with that. And so I was sharing this with my private client, and I said to her, it sounds like you are finding pockets of calm, right? Which is the dream. We all dream of finding the pockets of calm in our life. But what's happening is when you're finding the pockets of calm, when you're doing the things that are for your highest good, right? So you're finding the pockets of calm when you're meditating, when you're journaling, when you're moving your body. You know, these things are actually feeling really good in your body. And the body doesn't know how to respond to that because it's so used to either playing the victim or it's so used to being in the chaos state. And I was sharing with her, you know, you think about it, like we're literally born into a world that's full of chaos. And also because we've been working together, I know a lot about her childhood and, you know, things like that. So I said to her, even from the womb space, you know, it was a little bit chaotic. So from the moment that you were birthed into this world, there was chaos and your life has pretty much been chaotic up until you started to do this healing journey, right? And I said to her, you are now becoming aware of what it feels like when there is no chaos, but on a subconscious level, because it feels so unfamiliar. And remember, the ego's job is to keep us safe. And keeping us safe is keeping us in the same states that we are used to. And so even though we might hate the chaos that we live in, it is somewhat familiar and it is somewhat serving us. And so as we were having this conversation, I said to her, it sounds like the reason that you stopped doing all of these things is because your body is naturally reverting back to what feels safe, what feels familiar. It's reverting back to the chaos that you're used to having because God forbid that life could actually be easy. God forbid that life could be simple and not chaotic, right? And so it's almost like you're creating these situations where chaos becomes present because it's your familiar, normal state of being. And so this was a huge breakthrough that I had when I was in Corfu, which is amazing because on the other side of a breakthrough, you build so much more awareness around certain things. So now I catch this so much faster. And then I can also see it in other people as well. And I can pick up on it really quick, which is what I could see was happening for her. And I was like, you know, the reason that these things that you know fill your cup up that you stop doing is because you naturally want to go back to what doesn't feel good because it's such a natural state of being. Anyway, as I was sharing this with her, she was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Like, yes, like I think that's exactly what's happening. And I was like, beautiful. So now that you've got the awareness around it, we can change the pattern. She's like, okay, great, awesome. So then as we were sharing, you know, and we're chatting about that, then there's a deeper aspect that I wanted to delve into today. And now this does not apply to every single human being, but this definitely applies to her situation because of the work that we have done, right? And so I want to talk about this because I think that this is a really, really important topic for anybody that is on a healing journey, for anybody that has maybe invested a lot of money in therapy and done all of the work and things like that. This part is really talking to that type of woman, right? If you're new to the healing journey, then maybe not quite so much this is going to be for you, but I'm sure that you will be able to take away a lot of the goodness of what I'm going to share. And like anything, I only ever teach on something that I have been through myself, and that's why I'm able to pick up things so quickly, because I have been through so many different ego deaths and been reborn multiple times in this lifetime that I can, really help assist women go through these quantum leaps and these ego deaths as well. And so the other point that I said to her was, I want to recognize your awareness that you have in these patterns that keep showing up, right? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, that's huge. Like the biggest part of changing anything is really about having the awareness. We can't change anything unless we have the awareness. And so I said to her, I want to celebrate how quickly you are able to recognize these things, not me recognizing them and pointing them out to you, but you're actually catching them. And she was like, yeah, I am. I was like, yeah, so that's amazing. And I said, sometimes what I'm hearing, and she read I said to her, how do you feel about reading a section out of your journal to me? And she was like, yeah, totally. So she started to read this little section out of her journal. And I said to her, the fact that you have already caught it, right? There was already this self-awareness around this certain topic. I said, sometimes what happens when we go on a big healing journey and we start to heal from a lot of different aspects of our childhood, our adolescence, our adult life, into our adult being to where we are right now, is there is a part of us that becomes addicted to going deep all of the time, right? It's almost like we want to constantly go into the depths and fix what is wrong, right? Not that there's anything wrong with us, but there is definitely a part of us when you really do go on this deeper journey, there is a part of you that almost becomes addicted to self-analyzing. And it can actually be detrimental, because instead of allowing yourself the integration and instead of empowering yourself to go, hey, yes, I have the awareness around this. And yes, this was a pattern that kept showing up, but I'm not buying into this story anymore. We've healed through it. That takes a lot of courage, but it also takes a lot of self-awareness, right? And so what I was saying to her is, I can see over our last few weeks, this seems to be the same topic, right, that keeps coming up. And I said to her, I'm feeling like you are trying to find something in this. And I don't actually think that there's anything to find. There's nothing for you to actually fix. There's nothing for you to delve deeper into. And she was like, oh, really? And I said, yeah, no, I don't believe there is, because you already have so much self-awareness around it, right? And so I said to her, I really want you to start to catch this. So when you're journaling, sometimes the ego wants to keep finding fault, right? It wants to keep finding what the problem is, right? Because when we stay in that, we can constantly be feeling some kind of need, and we can justify why we're not maybe where we need to be, XYZ, within our business, our life, our relationships, whatever that looks like, our career, right? And so I said to her, I don't think that this is an issue, because you already have the awareness around it. You just told me what the problem was. Sometimes we want to dig deeper into it to avoid from doing the thing that we actually need to do. And that sometimes is just taking action, right? It's just literally taking action. It's calling it out. It's going, okay, cool, amazing. But I'm also not going to buy into this story, because I have worked through this. And now I know that this is just my ego that's wanting to keep me in this same pattern, in this same cycle, in this same loop. And I'm not buying into it. I'm going to integrate and I'm going to shift out of this pattern. And so to give you an example, she was saying to me, I feel like my phone, I'm really addicted to my phone. And I think we all are. And I was sharing this with her. I said, our phone is designed that way. It is designed for us to be stuck to it. That's how it's made. That's why do you think all the apps are available to be on the phone, right? Like everything has evolved so much when it comes to technology. And the reason that that is because we constantly are consuming information all of the time. And the more information that we consume about other people, other things, all of everything outside of us, the more unworthy we're going to feel in ourselves, the more power we're going to give away to other people, to other situations, to other things. And therefore, then the government can control us, right? Because the government doesn't want you to realize that you can heal yourself because there's no money in that, right? There's no money in someone that realizes, oh, if I get off my phone, I could actually stop with the diseases that are happening in my body because I'm now no longer scrolling social media, comparing myself to Joe Blow, or creating this anxiety in my body that is then showing up in other physical symptoms that are happening within inside my body as well. Oh my God, you could heal yourself from not being on your phone. Crazy, right? They don't want you to know that because they want to keep you in a fear state. The more that you're in a fear state, the more you're going to think that you don't have any control over your life. And it's not true, right? It's not true. So, got off on a little tangent there. I get very passionate about stuff like that. So she was sharing with me that, she realized that she is just been scrolling on her phone, and she realizes that it's because she's avoiding doing something, whether that is her journaling, whether that is doing the washing, like whatever it is, right? She's realized that her phone has become a distraction. And I said to her, the fact that you already are aware of that is amazing. Now it doesn't come down to grabbing your journal out and going, okay, well, why am I distracted? Why am I doing this? Blah, blah, blah. There's a time and a place for that. And I said to her, with the amount of work that we've done, you're not there anymore, right? Like you're not there. Someone that's maybe new on the healing journey, yes, we might need to go a bit deeper and find out what is it that you're distracting yourself from? What are you actually avoiding feeling? What is the deeper root of this? Yes, there is a time and a place for that, right? But for this particular instance, I know this woman and I have done lots and lots of deep work with her that I knew that that was not the case, right? And so I said to her, this is now not about you delving deeper into it. What this is about now is you changing and taking action. So you already have the awareness around your phone. She's like, yeah, I feel like, I'm cooking my lunch and then, I'm like, oh, I'll just quickly watch this YouTube while I'm cooking lunch. And, I feel like I'm not present with the things that I'm doing. I was like, great. So what this now looks like is you have the awareness around it. Now it's up to you to take action to change what you're doing. So if you are cooking lunch and then all of a sudden you realize that you've just hit play on some YouTube or some reel, I want you to catch it now and stop it, right? So you've caught it. You're like, oh, I'm cooking lunch. You have the awareness around it. You're not fully present. I'm going to hit stop and I'm going to come back and I'm going to be really present with what I'm cooking right now when it comes to lunch, dinner, like whatever it was, right? And you start to rewrite that pattern. But we can only rewrite that pattern if we have the awareness around it. And I said to her, you already have the awareness around it. So there is no reason why you can't just start taking the action now. And she was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. I was like, yes, exactly. So it's really, really important to, yes, go on the healing journey, but then also realize that the healing journey can become a little addictive, right? And you are constantly going to be searching and seeking for what's wrong with you. FYI, there's nothing wrong with you, but we want to go down that path because we can justify why we aren't where we want to be, instead of realizing, actually, I'm not where I want to be because the food that I'm cooking, I'm not even present with what I'm cooking. I'm multitasking. I'm completely distracted. And then I'm scoffing the food down. I'm not even really allowing it to fuel my body. When in actual fact, if I just stopped and became really present, everything could start to shift. So I wanted to share this with you for a few different reasons, because I think that this is a conversation that we can all benefit from, myself included, right? I'm walking this path with you, and my phone is a daily fucking battle. I do so much work from my phone. that I have to be really mindful. I'm in a season. I come and go through this season of Instagram where I'm like, fuck it, I'm done with Instagram. I don't want to do it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, but I run my business. So then I kind of come back to it. And so right now I'm in this season of like really realizing how much Instagram is such a distraction for me, that even if I want to post up the work that I'm posting, I can find myself just aimlessly scrolling through Instagram. And then I'm like, I catch myself and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this is not what, a multiple 8-9 figure businesswoman does. Like, she does not aimlessly scroll on social media. So like, let's catch this and let's get off it. Right. So I go through seasons as well through like social media. And, the more that we can become really focused on where we are spending our time, and if we're spending our time in areas that are not serving us, then number one, having the awareness around it, but then number two, making sure that you do change and you make a difference so that you can step into your higher self, so that you can stay focused, so you can eliminate the brain fog. So if this was an episode that was super supportive for you, please come and let me know. It means the absolute world to me when you guys send me a DM and you're like, oh my gosh, this was my biggest takeaway. This was amazing. If you are interested in working together, you'll see in the show notes there is a few different links there where we can deepen in on this work, whether it's in my group containers as a salon owner or group container for entrepreneurs, or maybe it is in private mentorship. Whatever you feel called for, you'll find all of the information in the show notes. I hope that I know that this was supportive, this episode, for sure, because these are things that if they're happening within my community, they are 100% happening to the women that are also tuning in and listening to this episode. So I hope you have a beautiful day wherever you are in the world, and I will chat with you real soon. Talk soon. Bye.